Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today, here we go. We're taking a look at the New York Rangers, specifically their big guy in between the pipes, and that is Igor Shesterkin. Now, it has been a tough start for the New York Rangers so far this season. It's definitely not gone the way they would have hoped. They currently sit 11 wins, 9 losses, and 4 overtime and shootout points, which is 26 points in the National Hockey League and 5th in their division, which is definitely not something they were expecting. They're behind the Devils, Islanders, Hurricanes, and the Pittsburgh Penguins, which currently means they're currently on the outside of the playoffs looking in. But really the key thing is Igor Shesterkin, because the Rangers have kind of had a weird start to this season. They started off pretty good, kind of went into a bad losing streak, kind of picked up a couple more wins, lost a couple more games, and then it's been kind of back and forth since then. It hasn't been pretty for the Rangers. And I think the more concerning thing is, if you look at the scores, you think, all right, they lost 4-3 to Edmonton. Okay. They lost 4-3 to the Islanders. Okay. But it's not the end result. It's what happened and transpired during that game. That Islander game, they had a 2-goal lead going into the third period. They were up 3-1. That Oilers game, one of the worst losses in recent NHL history. They had a 3-0 lead going into the third period. They lost that game 4-3. The New Jersey Devils, the first 10 minutes, they're up 2-0. They lose the game 5-2. It's becoming a pattern for the New York Rangers. And the fact that they haven't necessarily gotten great defense, and there's been questions about how good is this defensive system from Gerard Gallant. Maybe it was a little bit shadowed even last year because of how good Shesterkin was last year, and he's just not been that good this year. And I think it's a combination of both. You don't want to give too much credit to Shesterkin, but you also don't want to give too much credit, and maybe the lack thereof of credit to the defense. Now, I will be the first one to tell you, I didn't think they were that good last year. Honestly, as, completely objective. Call me whatever you want, Islander hater, Islanders fan, Ranger hater, whatever you want to say. That team had some issues. Now, the good thing was they had some good defensive prospects coming up, right? Keandre Miller was already in the league, but he was kind of maturing. We're going to see more Braden Schneider, some of those younger guys, Nils Lundqvist at the time before he's since been traded. Robertson, some of those defensemen. You were hoping to see more of those guys. And this team kind of continuing to build off of that. And that's just not how it worked. Shesterkin won the Vezina Trophy for a reason last year. I think he was that good. That was what Shesterkin did last year is borderline what Lundqvist did during his prime with the New York Rangers in the mid-2010s, sending them to the conference finals a couple years and inevitably the Stanley Cup final that one year against the Kings. He was dominant. Nobody in their right mind was going to beat Lundqvist. And that's why I kind of look at that picture of Lundqvist, as an Islander fan, a little bit differently, but that picture of Lundqvist when Martinez scored that game winner in Game 5 in LA, you knew. The way Lundqvist's face was buried into the ice, he knew that was his shot. That was his shot at winning a Stanley Cup, and it was just taken away from him. And that is something that I don't think we saw for Shesterkin last year because he's still so young, but he had to play that type of performance last year, and Shesterkin was up to the task. He was so good for the Rangers last year. And they struggled in the backup position. That was kind of a problem. We saw a little bit of Keith Kincaid. We saw a little bit of, he's in Colorado now. I forgot his name. You guys will remind me, the Russian goalie. I can't believe I forgot his name. It's only been a couple of months. You guys get who I'm talking about. The goalie that was backing up Shesterkin most of last year, the Russian guy. They looked different last year. Now, the problem this year is, too, because Shesterkin hasn't been playing good, they've been relying on Halak more. And Halak is not very good at all. And listen, I liked him in his time with the Islanders, but he probably should have hung up the skates after that season in Boston. Because then he went to Vancouver, then he went to, now back to the Rangers on the East Coast. He's been all over the place, and I just think he's kind of lost that step. He had a couple of decent games last year for the Canucks, and I think that allowed him to get another job in the NHL, but this might be it for Halak. And I just think that lack of a good backup has really hurt and kind of strained Shesterkin to the point where they were expecting him to play maybe 50 games this year. 50 to 55 games. Let Halak get maybe 20, 25 games, maybe some games closer to the end of the season and allow Shesterkin to rest for the playoffs. That hasn't necessarily worked out that way. And it's kind of been one of those things where I think he's just been bombarded with shots, maybe a little bit of that lack of playing good defense. It's all come to a front now. And this is from John Scott, which I thought was interesting. He said that, I think we're seeing some flaws with the Rangers system and their roster. Last year, Shesterkin's play covered that up. This year, they're getting a little bit exposed. So, again, kind of the criticism of that lack of a defense and a good system there. Another interesting thing here. So, this was after the Rangers played the Devils. And, in that press conference after the game, Shesterkin took all of the credit on himself, which, kudos to him for doing that. Rangers goalie Shesterkin got booed by the Rangers fans, and the Devils fans were chanting Igor, kind of the Bronx cheer, Igor, and that's what happened against the Islanders in the Islander game. I was down there at that game at MSG, and his record against the Islanders is like something like 1-7-4 when he plays the Islanders, and that one win was the pandemic season against the Islanders at the first game at UBS Arena, where basically half the team was Bridgeport. So Shesterkin has struggled in these sort of rivalry games, and that's something that it has to be concerning. And again, you could blame the defense for some of those blown leads, but that's when you need Shesterkin to kind of find a way to steal a game, and he has not been able to do that, and that's kind of frustrating. He kind of said after the press conference too, he said, he kind of threw himself under the bus after the game, and he kind of said, he's like, I suck right now. And I think that holding himself accountable, this is the first bit of adversity that Shesterkin has faced in New York. It's been all, the honeymoon phase, sunshine and rainbows, but now he's facing that New York adversity, and I think he'll be able to get out of it. He just seems like the type of guy that's just able to do that, but this is a real big spot for him in his NHL career, as this is a guy that's early on, the first couple of seasons have been good, but things are getting tough now. How is he able to get himself out of that? And this is going to be a huge stretch for him. It's going to be a huge stretch for the New York Rangers as a team overall, because, they're 1 point back in the standings right now of the playoffs, but, the games come up quick, and we're looking at a spot now where the Rangers are already at a point in this season you just can't afford to just give games away. And they have given away a handful of games here really since October. Like a couple of important games. Like I said, that Devils game, they lost 5-3. Edmonton, they were up 3-0 and lost that game 4-3. They lost to the Ducks and gave them their first regulation game, their first regulation win of the season. Those are all 3 games in a row. Like, that should not be happening. There's no reason for that. So let me know what you guys think down below. Do you guys think the Rangers are in for a rough season? Do you think they'll get themselves out of that? I think they're one of the teams in the Metro Division. Honestly, if I had to pick between them, Pittsburgh, Washington, Philadelphia, Columbus, out of those bottom teams in the division, I definitely think the Rangers have the most potential to get themselves back toward the top of the division, making the playoffs. But as of right now, there's definitely that sense of a little bit concern and lack of urgency, and just that lack of playing that defensive structure. The Rangers are struggling a little bit. So let me know what you guys think. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.